Check. Welcome to the One Life, One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today I have a very special guest. This is one of the people who inspired me to become vegetarian since 1988. You may know him from Youth of Today, Shelter, Better Than 1,000, Violent Children, and Reflex from Pain. I never heard of that one. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Ray Cappo. My friend, hi.
Good to be here.
So, basically, my podcast is me interviewing people who inspired me as a kid to make me into the person that I am today. And for people that don't know a lot of your story, obviously I have all my notes and my questions in front of me. I know you're born in Connecticut. My question to you, first and foremost, how was it growing up there, and, how were you in school?
School, I was, growing up in Connecticut was, how was it? I live in the countryside now, and my kids go to actually now my kids are homeschooled.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But for most of their life and their older brothers, they went to a Waldorf school, which is, on 400 acres. It's a farm. It's an organic, biodynamic farm. It's it's super pristine.
Yeah.
As you could imagine,
Sounds
for
awesome.
a kid to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then last year we decided to homeschool them, which has also been awesome because we travel a lot.
Yeah.
And I like to bring the kids with me to India. So
Yeah.
I never really had issues with how I grew up in the public school in Connecticut until I juxtaposed it against the way my kids go to school. And I realized, wow, I grew up in a crappy school. It's hard to say that because my father was one of the teachers in the school.
Oh, wow.
But if I really brought it back to what I learned, I grew up in a racist school. Why? Because my generation, I'm 53 this year, so they were sort of racist times. It was a very a mixed school. My wife grew up in an all white school in Michigan. So she never even had any racial issues because they were not around race. So sometimes people think having different races together is a good thing. You could argue for that.
Yep.
But I will say it formed into gangs. And I was always bullied. I was ridiculously bullied as soon as I got into junior high school. And then I fell right into that pattern. Okay, I can either bury myself and bury my personality, which I know some of my friends did, or you can bully back. So I learned how to bully back.
Oh, wow.
And I just became a bully, and I learned how to be, a nasty jerk. And the whole time it didn't jive with my internal ethics of, what I wanted to be. I was always ethically driven, and I was always a little outspoken.
Yeah. And
so after a while, I just realized, I don't want to be part of this thing anymore in this, suburban high school. And I started trying to find my tribe outside of, my big sort of Connecticut high school. Yeah. And I was fortunate that I had older brothers and sort of New York City parents. My parents grew up in New York City.
Nice.
And my brothers and sisters moved to New York City when they graduated. Yeah. And so I would always just go visit them in New York. And it exposed me to everything alternative music, alternative lifestyle, alternative everything. And that sort of brought me to the Lower East Side.
Yeah, I mean... Stumbled
upon it.
Yeah, so... go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's sort of how I was sort of into alternative music. I wanted an alternative lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to just, I was popular and stuff like that, but after a certain time, it's I'm not interested in that type of popularity.
Yeah, did you play sports and stuff?
So I sort of just cut myself out of my high school thing, and every weekend I'd get on Metro North train and take the train into New York City and spend the weekend with my brothers and just go to shows.
So
it was a special time.
Yeah,
it was a special time because everything was sort of, the paradigm in high school is if you want to do music, you find a band that you like and you learn how to play all their songs. My generation, you're playing Led Zeppelin or Rush, and I couldn't even like compete with that because I just sort of liked music.
Yeah.
And when I started going to CBGB's, I started seeing people that were my age, but they were writing their own songs.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? That's cool. I don't want to play someone else's songs. I want to write my own songs.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, that is free. And I was with a friend of mine, and she said to me, you know, Ray, you could do that. You should just start a band.
Yeah.
And we started a band. That's how my first band started. We didn't really know how to play our instruments. I was in 10th grade. And it just happened. And that band, we sort of sucked. We sort of sucked, did a lot of stuff. We played at A7, played at CBGB's. We played at Pogo's in Bridgeport, which was one of the famous Connecticut clubs in the old days.
Yeah.
We played with the Cro-Mags. We played with Agnostic Front.
Damn.
Back before, you know, these bands were not even that popular.
10th grade, that's crazy.
So, yeah, it was cool. It was sort of a good access into that whole world. So that's sort of my story, how I got into music. And we manufactured our own record, which was, you know,
that's awesome.
I don't know, maybe that sounds very normal, but back then it was like...
No, it doesn't. It's crazy.
It was really cutting edge, you know.
Yeah.
We make a record, we recorded a record, and we made it, and we pressed it, and we distributed it.
Damn.
And for a kid who's like in 10th grade...
Yeah, man.
It was like, wow, Rough Trade Distribution wants to buy 300 of your record. You only pressed 500.
Wow.
It was like, what? Yeah. So it was almost like DIY was like, we learned how to, without thinking about it.
Yeah.
We learned how to like create a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like a perfect, in retrospect, how Waldorf schooling does things now. It's like you take a project and it incorporates everything. It incorporates music, art. You know, we make the artwork. We start a business. We put money in. We get money back. We reinvest it. We create branding.
It's awesome.
And then you book your own shows. And it sort of like made us sort of grow up and be sort of artistic entrepreneurs, and introduced me to a whole fascinating world of sort of like sort of like underground music.
Yeah.
And it's hard for younger kids to even understand that there was an underground music scene. Like, we used to stay up late at night and listen to radio channels, you know, like radio stations, because you couldn't hear hardcore. You couldn't hear. Now you hear, you know, these pop punk bands became really, really
Ramones,
popular.
maybe?
But
yeah.
No. I'm saying nowadays.
Oh, nowadays,
there's so many bands that play arenas that
are
like, you know, Blink and Green Day, and bands that just got really huge and became a sort of a fabric of our mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very difficult to do that back then. If you wanted to hear the Buzzcocks, or if you wanted to hear the Ramones, or if you wanted to hear the Minutemen or Black Flag, you'd have to stay up late at night, and for an hour and a half, there was a radio show in Hartford, Connecticut, and maybe you could barely tune in and hear, but you didn't have great reception, and there was, NYU had a radio show, and you listened to music like that before you could just, download music. So that was sort of like an interesting, phenomenon, and like manufacturing your own record,
it's crazy,
putting it out.
Yeah,
it was an interesting phenomenon. I still have friends that I met, from those days who you became pen pals with.
Yeah.
Even the concept of pen pals is sort of
it's so foreign,
outdated, but you make a pen pal. Like, I still have pen pals.
Yeah.
All those guys in Verbal Assault, and
it's
and
awesome.
Bluefish Barkley, these guys are all my pen pals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you know what you wanted to do in school? Like in 10th grade, when we started the band and you're making your own records and stuff, did you know what you wanted to do when you graduated? Did you have like an idea?
No. No plan.
Just going to wing it.
My plan was, I was sort of good at math.
Yeah.
But I started studying math, but I realized by the time Youth of Today started, I realized, what, this band has a good message.
Yeah. And
I'm a good spokesperson.
Yes.
And I feel like the world can benefit from this. And I thought, I'm going to do this. Yeah. And I had no plan. My only plan was, I want to release a single, and I want to release an LP, and I want to go on tour.
Yeah.
I want to see the world and live in a van, Now, some people, that doesn't sound very attractive. Matter of fact, the guys in Violent Children were like, are you crazy? Why would you want to live in a van? But Purcell, it was a great idea.
Yeah.
So some people, I've met, there's two types of people I find. The kind that going on tours like, this is a dream come true.
Yep.
And the kind that they think it might be a dream come true, but they actually do it. They're like, this is crazy. I can't do this.
100%.
I've had people, right? You've had people like maybe even join the band for the first time, and they've never been in a band. And once they get on the road, they realize, I can't do this. I'm homesick. I missed it. Some people aren't.
Yeah.
It's not easy living in a band, in a van rather, and just traveling all the time.
Yeah.
Even as romantic as it sort of sounds.
Yeah.
It takes a special type of animal that can be like, okay, we got a 15-hour drive to Amsterdam from Zagreb.
True. It's so brutal.
Okay, you're sleeping on the floor. You're going to sleep up with a T-shirt.
Yeah. Were your parents giving any pressure, like when you started playing music in high school, like, we want you to do this or take a certain route, or they were pretty open-minded about the music?
Excuse me. We had a big Italian family.
Yeah. And
like 7 kids. And so by the time I came around, I was like number 6 out of 7.
Damn.
I think they were just like, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And they were sort of supportive. They were, it's interesting because they didn't quite get it. I would just say, I'm going to New York City to see some music this weekend.
Yeah.
Now, I would never let my kids go to New York City to see music, especially New York City 1982.
Yeah.
But they were just like, okay, have fun.
Wow.
Because I think they thought I was going to like Lincoln Center or something.
Mm-hmm.
To see classical music or.
Yeah.
But so anyway, they were sort of like supportive. In retrospect, I was like, man, I used to play the drums. Drums are so loud.
Yeah.
But they were cool and supportive. And when I got a little older, my father got sick and he went into a coma. So he was sort of out of it when Youth of Today started.
Oh, wow.
And and he ended up leaving his body at the end of Youth of Today. So all of Youth of Today, he was pretty much in a coma.
Wow, man. It's crazy to know that.
Yeah, it was a very, very difficult time in my life.
I can imagine, man. So when does Youth of Today start? Are you in high school still?
Youth of Today started, I think, just as we were graduating high school. And it was the first time I felt like this is going to be a real band. Like, this is going to be real. And we took ourselves very seriously from the get-go.
Yeah.
And even though we sort of like all approached university, me and Purcell, our heads weren't in university at all. We were just like, oh, this was at a time, we were also pen pals with Kevin from 7 Seconds.
Yes.
Who you know and love. And he sort of like, Kevin sort of single-handedly changed the course of the music scene just by writing vulnerable and, honest and, lyrics. It sort of changed the current.
Yes.
It was quite beautiful. And it affected me in such a deep way, too. It steered me. And so Kevin and Bessie, who was their friend and manager, they said, I remember Bessie calling me up. How did this happen? Oh, you know what happened first was... Am I missing backstory stuff? Because we're just diving right into stuff, and I don't know what your audience is into or even...
No, whatever you want, dude. I want to know the history. I mean, Kevin Seconds was on the other day. He talked all about getting you guys on Positive Force and all that stuff. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Well, let me jump back a little.
Go ahead,
let me
man.
jump back a little and tell that story because it was so funny because we really loved the concept of straight edge. We were all straight edge anyway. It was just something like, it's not something I even heard of. I just believed in clean living. Yes. I didn't know it was a coined phrase. Yep. Even before I found Minor Threat. Mm-hmm. I thought, this is cool. I already believe in this stuff. I don't believe in taking drugs and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And so, it was really sort of right up my alley. And then I was like, Minor Threat is this, Minor Threat was around at that time. And I just remember when Youth of Today just started, I was like, wait till Ian MacKaye hears about me. He's going to love Youth of Today. We're completely straight edge. You know what I mean? I've read his lyrics. Those seem like really good lyrics. I believe the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, they should just put out our record. So me and Purcell recorded that record, and we're like, I'm just going to call Ian and just tell him.
Wow.
And Ian was very, very polite. But was like, oh, I don't think so. I don't know.
That's amazing.
And I was like, well, this is weird. And then also my other favorite band I really loved was SSD Control.
Yeah.
And I think at this time they might have just disbanded or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, Al's phone number is on the back of their record. I'm just going to call Al and tell them to put me on Exclaim Records. They're going to love me, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, why wouldn't they? You got to understand, there was no straight edge anything back then.
No.
There's like, Minor Threat was straight edge, but after after they sort of coined that phrase, they sort of backed off from that word.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Boston, it became a word and a thing.
Yep.
But people sort of backed off from it, and they started, getting rid of that look and that sound.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, well, this is something we believe in. Let's just all band together. Can't we just band together? And so I just called up Al. I was like, hey, Al. You don't know me, but I'm in a singer of a band, and we're straight edge, just like you guys are straight edge. And I think, we should just do this record with you guys. And he was just like, well, Exclaim really isn't a record label. It's just like a bunch of bands from Boston. We use the same label just to create some cohesiveness.
Gotcha.
I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, it's not like a record label. It's like no one owns it. We just get bands. I go, well, I love all these bands. Jerry's Kids, DYS, SSD. Why don't we just become on your record label? I mean, I'm in Connecticut. It's like we're next door to Massachusetts. He's like, well, truthfully, I don't own it. No one owns it. If you want to do it, you can do it. I was like, then I'll do it. I'll do it. So I almost made Youth of Today on Exclaim Records.
Wow. That's crazy.
Because I was just sort of like, all systems go, man. This is real. Let's
You're
just
so
play
passionate about it. Yeah.
hardball.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at that time, we had become friends with Kevin.
Yeah.
The year before, when Violent Children.
He loved you guys.
They were just kind to us, but
yeah.
Violent Children used to write to them, so Violent Children ended up playing with them. And as a matter of fact, when Walk Together, Rock Together came out, I remember my girlfriend at the time just goes, Ray, you're not going to believe this, but on the back cover of the record, Kevin is wearing a Violent Children shirt. I was like, what? It was like a dream come true.
That's huge.
It's hard for anybody to imagine that.
Totally.
Imagine if you were in 11th grade or something.
Yeah.
But your favorite band, it could be, it's hard outside the punk scene to imagine that
that's amazing.
Led Zeppelin or Cheap Trick is wearing your shirt. So he's
huge.
wearing a Violent Children shirt, and I open it up on the lyric sheet, and there's a lyric sheet in the LP.
Yeah.
It's hard to even imagine now that you get a giant package like an LP because everything was
true.
CDs for years and digital downloads, but you get getting a big package of a record. And so you open it up and have this lyric sheet and a collage of photos, and there I am singing along with Kevin in the center of the Rock Together. And I was like, oh my God, what? And then he thanked me on the lyric sheet. I was like, what?
3 shout-outs. That's amazing.
At that point, when I told him about our new band, and we want to play shows with them, so we booked a bunch of shows with them. And we didn't have a car, of course, so we were driving back in their car.
Yeah.
And then Kevin goes, yeah, we're starting a record label. We want to put out the Youth of Today record on Positive Force. I was like, Positive Force? We're positive people. That's perfect. I was going to be on Exclaim, but I guess my Exclaim deal will fall through.
That's amazing.
Discord didn't pick me up. It was their loss.
That's awesome. Yeah,
so
Positive Force was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, that year we went to university, just started university. We realized, you know what? I'm not into this. And Kevin and Bessie said, you know what? Why don't you guys over break just come out to California and play a bunch of shows and tour 7 seconds? I was like, what? That was like a dream come true. And
Yeah.
I've never been on a plane before. You know?
Oh, wow.
I just lived in the tri-state area. You
What
know?
year was that?
That was 19. It was the end of 1988.
Okay.
So I had never been on a plane,
That's
and I was
huge.
like 19.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like unbelievable. So everything was great. And at the 11th hour, did Purcell tell the story? I don't want to be redundant.
Did he tell the story, or Kevin told the story? How Kevin Seconds played drums?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still an amazing story.
Our drummer bailed at the 11th hour. We couldn't believe it. And he just said, come out here anyway. We'll find you a drummer.
Wow, dude.
I don't know if he told you this story. He shows up in like this 1972 station wagon, like one of those 10-seaters.
Who, Kevin?
And I was like, yeah, Kevin.
Sick.
And I was like, hey, where's the van we're going to tour with? He goes, well, the band has a van, but I'm going to drive you around on the station wagon.
Oh, shit.
I was like, this station wagon right here is going to drive us all around Northern and Southern California and Arizona?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. And I said, Kevin, this car has no license plates on it. And he goes, we'll find some plates.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's hard to believe like you could just drive around with no license plates back then.
So he did the tour in that car.
Anyway, Kevin ended up taking us on that tour, and he ended up playing drums for us.
It's amazing, man.
It was pretty amazing.
The Fender show, where like you guys had to borrow Mike Ness's guitar, or some Social Distortion show you guys played.
Yeah, that first show was with Social Distortion and the Vandals.
Wow, man.
Sacramento. It was, for a kid, it was like a dream come true.
Yeah.
See your first palm tree.
Yeah.
See your heroes.
Yeah.
You'll get to play on stage. And we had something to offer because no one was doing that type of hardcore then.
No one.
You know.
And the 7-inch was out. That was it, right? Can't close my eyes. 7-inch.
The 7-inch didn't quite even come out at that point.
Mm.
The 7-inch didn't come out till like probably around like March or maybe like February. After the tour had ended, I stayed in California and dropped out of school.
Oh, wow,
just lived
really?
7 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, I realized this is what I want. And then Purcell too was the whole time he's like, all right, I got to get out of school.
Damn.
My mom was too worried about my dad, and she was sort of shouldn't put any pressure on me about anything.
Yeah, so then when you get back to New York and the 7-inch is out and you start playing shows.
Well, the weird thing was it was like I got back to New York and like everybody was straight edge.
Wow.
Like everyone's like, and it's like right before we left, we played this big show with Agnostic at CBGB's. It was packed, and it was one of these things. I said to myself, man, should I preach straight edge in New York City, or am I going to get my ass kicked? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it because that's what we are.
It's amazing.
If I'm going to get my ass kicked. And we just preached it really loud. And the time we got back from California, it was like first of all, Ray B's came up to me. He's like, Ray B's. He's like, I just knew Ray B's as sort of like back then we called them older guys. He was like 25 or something.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that that I consider that old, but
yeah,
Raby's like, but he was sort of like known. He was like heavy into drugs.
Yeah.
Sort of a little scary personality. But then he was like, no, man, I'm totally straight edge now. Everything's changed. I'm totally straight edge. And then Todd Youth came up to me. He's like, no, dude, we're all straight edge now. Warzone's completely straight edge band. I was like, you're kidding.
Wow.
And then I met Tommy. And then I met Tommy and Craig from Secret All.
Yeah.
And they were just like, yeah, we're totally straight edge. We started a band called Straight Ahead. And then we met Richie from Numbskulls. And he's like, yeah, we're all straight edge. I was like, Jesus Christ, what happened? I was straight edge. And then that record came out. And then we started then what happened is I moved to New York City. And I had our family had some crappy old apartment in New York City that I had super cheap rent for
nice.
$250 a month.
Damn.
And me and Purcell moved there. And then our other two guys decided, drummer who didn't go to California and our bass player who was, serious about school. They didn't end up joining the band. or they wanted to just say, oh, we can't do this. We're serious.
Yeah.
And so we got Tommy and Craig from Straight Ahead to be in the band.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was cool. That was the beginning of us just starting playing in New York. And we sort of like switched to being a New York band. That's what we got known as, a New York band.
I feel like...
Yeah, when that single came out.
Yeah.
We were all in New York at that time.
I feel like the straight edge movement seems like it was bigger there than anywhere else. Even I wasn't around for the Minor Threat days, like how big the movement was and how like proud people were and how
I don't know if it was a movement.
Not a movement.
I think Youth of Today sort of branded it as sort of a almost unintentionally. It just became sort of a movement because other bands became straight edge and everyone identified themselves with that. And also we had sort of like an alternative look.
Totally.
That we weren't necessarily pushing.
Yes.
It's just that's what we were. We were more athletic. We were clean cut. We were like, had a little bit of a California skater influence.
Vans.
And
totally.
That wasn't available in New York City, or you didn't see that so much in the New York City scene.
Agreed.
And also it was sort of like we weren't from, difficult upbringings. We had
100%.
loving parents.
Yep.
Loving parents. We liked the hard music, but we weren't into trying to, we had no like tough agenda to prove or stuff like that. So I couldn't relate to like tough guy lyrics at all. I tried to, but at the same time, I wasn't that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I had like a spirit of like goodwill and kindness. And that's why when 7 Seconds started writing those songs, they touched my heart. And that's the reason why, I got turned into vegetarianism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Youth of Today, the mood of Youth of Today sort of started becoming shaped like, okay, we're here for spreading a good message.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, that's what sort of straight edge became for me. And I know it morphed into different things over time.
It did.
It's just that wasn't my cup of tea.
Me either. It was always something positive for me, nothing negative or judging.
Yeah, it was always something. Yeah, to me, it was always something positive and upbeat, and it was sort of like inclusive.
Yeah.
I think when I first started the band, we didn't quite know what we were. We were still trying to figure out our own ethic, and we know that it's good not to drink and smoke and party and end up, but there was still probably ego wrapped up with that.
Yes.
19-year-old brain.
Yeah.
But very soon, like, we started to figure out, no, this is what we're going to be, like a force of good,
Yeah.
And that was sort of like, changed the trajectory of my entire life.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to Priscilla about it too, like everybody was wearing leather jackets and their boots and their spikes, and I thought it was even more punk that you guys could walk into CBGB's with the varsity jackets on, clean cut haircuts, just jeans and like sneakers. I mean, people were in jeans and sneakers and T-shirts, but you guys had the varsity. It was just a totally different vibe, man.
It did take a lot of. I mean, we talk about like non-conformity, etc.
Yeah.
It took a lot to say I don't drink and smoke.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot of courage to say that. There was a lot of peer pressure to do the opposite, both in high school and then also in the punk scene.
Yeah.
And when you say, I'm not going to wear these spike jackets, I find them impractical and heavy, and I'm not going to wear these gigantic boots around. I find these things clunky, and, I can't move or run in them or do anything athletic in them. And it's just like, when you're around a group of other people wearing those things, it took a lot of like inner, like, you have to have like some, your own feelings of self.
Yeah.
And where you don't really care what people think. So I think that was sort of like a very good platform for us to move forward with all the other ideas and ethos we had at that time.
I mean, that's the punkest thing, is not to give a fuck what people think.
It is the punkest thing. It is the punkest thing. It's very easy to become straight edge when everybody else is straight edge.
True.
And it's almost cool to be straight edge.
Yeah. Was there like a lot of blowback from people? Like, was there a lot of any tension or anything from like other bands, or because you guys came so strong with it in New York?
There's always a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
There's always a little bit.
Pre-internet,
especially
too.
when we got into vegetarianism.
Mm-hmm. So...
when we got into vegetarianism, there's a lot of pushback.
Yeah, so what
but, it's whenever you make like a disciplined choice towards your self-betterment,
Yeah.
Just expect pushback.
Yeah.
But what it does is it starts to build your character. You know, when you can say, you know what, this is what I am, no matter what you think of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a powerful sort of aphorism I still
100%.
keep with today. Like,
Me
you know,
too.
what people think of me is none of my business. What I think of myself, that's my business.
I love that.
So
It's so true.
yeah.
When did the
So
vegetarianism come into your life?
you know, I got
Like what
I
inspired
started
you?
like vegetarian back then was always sort of like fringe.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot. You couldn't get a veggie burger. There's not a lot of health
Hell
food
no.
stores.
Nope.
You know, it was very peculiar to be into health
It was
food.
it was so foreign for sure. Yeah.
It was so foreign. So I got some inspiration at a young age. I don't know if it was through punk or through, Krishna or something, but I got some inspiration. Like, I have a dog, but I can't. What do you call it? But I have a dog, and he's my best friend. And then there is like a cow who's like a commodity.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's hard for people to separate
and so
that.
for me, that was always like, it was almost like developed like a split type of brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait a second, one thing is a thing and one thing is a person.
Yeah.
And it started like troubling me. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And then I got that book, Animal Liberation,
Yes.
by Singer, and then I read one of the Krishna books on vegetarianism, and I was like, yeah, that's right. This makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It was just it made so much sense. I was like, okay. But the problem was I didn't have the willpower and the determination or the community to support it.
Yeah.
Like, my parents definitely were not going to support it because they were Italians, and to them, they sort of like made it out of the ghetto, so to speak, by being able to afford meat.
Yeah.
So, so to my whole family, to be vegetarian would be like ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of quietly said, I can see this as being me. Now, I really appreciate kids nowadays who do it.
It's huge.
But like I said, I had no camaraderie within it. I didn't really know any vegetarians.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to cook. But what I did was when I graduated and I moved out, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to adopt this diet from now on.
Wow.
And I had to just figure it out.
Yeah.
That was a little tricky, but
yeah,
I figured it out.
I mean, I feel like you guys were so ahead of the curve with all that. I feel like hardcore music, especially Youth of Today and Gorilla Biscuits, and even like KRS-One, the rapper at the time, he was singing about vegetarianism in the 80s. Like, the way the world is now, it's insane how, like you say, we have a more conscious, caring society. It's actually becoming that.
It really did. It really changed.
Crazy, dude.
It's unbelievable how much it changed.
And you were singing about that No More video was so amazing. And I think Purcell said they tried to get MTV tried to get you guys to edit out like the slaughtering stuff. You guys wouldn't do it, which is really cool. But just that video and that for that time was such a bold statement, especially in hardcore music and just in general. Like, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, I think it planted a lot of seeds.
Yeah. I mean, there was nobody singing about that type of shit in hardcore. Like, nobody. It was...
Yeah.
It was a powerful platform to use it,
Yeah, you're going to be in a band anyway, and if you got something good to say, why not use that platform?
Mm-hmm. But it's crazy now how, like... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that was sort of... I liked when the lyrics were sort of practical things that you could apply to your life.
Yes.
I liked always that much more than sort of artistic lyrics that you can make mean whatever you want to mean. To me, that was sort of like, are you kidding? You're getting the chance to stand on a platform. You have the chance to, with a few words, have a ripple effect on society that's going to change the whole world. And you're just going to write an artistic song that means nothing to anyone, or, could make a person depressed.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity here. So anyway, for me, hardcore was that way to like shout it. You to shout how you feel and speak your mind. And if you have something great to say, hey, you have an opportunity now that it's going to have an effect. And it's my job. And I was really careful when I was writing songs. It's my job to make people headspace be in a better place when they done listening to my music.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring them down. Life will already bring them down. I want to bring them up somehow.
Yeah. I mean, Break Down the Walls, when that came out too, that wasn't that much later after Can't Close My Eyes. It wasn't like a year or two, right? It seemed like it wasn't that long. How was that coming out? Like the reaction to that, like your first full-length album back then? You guys are really big.
That album?
Yeah, you really big then when that came out. Like that was like things were really going really great for you through today. Then when the first album came out too, everything was built up from the 7-inch. You know what I mean? Like the excitement.
You know what's interesting? There was sort of like it's sort of interesting now with what's it called? There's internet viral this and that.
Yes.
Things were viral before the internet. Things went viral. Like so,
word of mouth.
People were interested in. It's weird. International viral.
Mm-hmm.
Just word of mouth. It spread around the country, and people heard of Youth of Today. And for me, it was like a phenomenon that was happening. Like people care about this stuff.
Yeah.
I was sort of shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of shocked that people cared. And when that record came out, it was like big news.
Yeah.
And of course, this is all relative, but for me, it was like really, it was sort of like that record like sort of changed the course of my life also, because that record like sort of like encouraged me. Okay, you can take this thing on tour now.
Yeah.
And of course, material envy exists, which is one of these things. I started reading books on yoga. And they would always critique. When I'm talking about yoga books, I don't mean like these books you read nowadays on physical therapy and alignment. I meant like sort of like swamis and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the swamis would say things like the material world is filled with envy and lust and greed and things like that. And part of me felt like, these guys are a little negative. I like this yoga. I like the concept of yoga and peace, but they got such a negative attitude all the time. But I realized like very quickly, like envy exists even in this like straight edge world, because here we are, this band, and we have really good intentions.
Yeah.
But as soon as that record came out, and then there was a bunch of other straight edge bands around at the time that are maybe younger than us. As soon as that record came out, we were looked at as sellouts.
Wow,
because we put out an album. And because that's what happened. We did a tour. By the time we came back from that tour, which we thought we were going to be like welcomed home, there was a bunch of our like close people that were just like, yeah, you guys sold out. And I was thinking,
crazy.
Sell out. No, it's interesting because straight edge even adopted this word, made this word even another thing.
Yes.
Sell out means not being straight edge, but and then sell out meaning, and then in this terms, it meant selling out meant like, selling out your ideals. And I think that's what it originally meant. You sell out your ideals for money. Like you got purchased by some big record label. Now you're not serious about whatever you once believed in. So
that's crazy.
I was like, selling out? We don't make any money doing this.
I never understood that. Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's just sort of like, I think it's human nature, or the nature of the material world is you become envious of someone's success. Instead of wishing someone well for their success, you become envious of their success.
Yeah.
And, and the converse is true. Someone's suffering, sometimes we laugh at their suffering. We're happy they're struggling. So those are just sort of like lowbrow material concepts that I realized, wow, that envy that the yogis talk about is real. I don't, why are people like so cruel to me because we had good fortune?
Yeah.
And truthfully, in retrospect, it's not like we were even that big anyway. We were just sort of like, it was sort of like an interesting like wave that happened and, affected a bunch of us, yourself included and myself included. But it turned out to be a very, very big ripple effect.
Totally.
A lot of those people were just sort of like, culture changers.
Yeah.
That grew up and did cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, was that on Caroline Records or something? Break Down the Walls?
No, that one was on Wishing Well.
Oh, Wishing Well, that's right. Uniform Choice.
Which was Uniform Choice's label.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it's always a weird thing when like you're doing something you love and you're playing music and you're making records you believe in, and then you get more popular than kids. It seems like a lot of hardcore kids are quick to turn their back and be like, okay, you're not playing to 10 people in the basement anymore. You're not cool anymore, or too many people like you, and I found you first. It's like this kind of like selfish kind of attitude. I never understood that. I was like, you want your friends to do good and spread that message to as many people as they can. You know, it's like that's
It's
all. That's
just,
how I
you know
saw
what
it.
it is? It's just like a nasty material attitude.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so that's, yeah, and that type of stuff drove me off to doing shelter and going on my own spiritual, thing like that, because I realized, like, it doesn't matter if you're clean and straight and vegetarian or vegan or whatever like that. It's these more subtle things in my heart I have to really clean up.
Yeah. I remember working at the studio in Queens where Youth of Today and Good Biscuits were practicing. I remember you came back, maybe it was something from your first trips to India, and you were like, I came in the room, you were like doing yoga poses and all this stuff. I was like, holy shit. And I think you guys were working on it. We were on this alone at the time. I think that might have been I don't know what year that was though. But that was cool just to see that transition. Like I know you went to India, and that was interesting because that turned into something a whole different kind of chapter and genre of hardcore after that. The vegetarian straight edge thing, and then into the Krishna conscious thing was like, it's pretty amazing. Like just the stuff you've been part of as far as inspiring people.
We've been on an interesting ride, Toby, haven't we?
That's crazy. But I just remember all that.
Very interesting. I tell you, I'm 53 years old. I look back at my life, it's like, what a freak. Even nowadays, I try to tell I'm a yoga teacher, so I should tell my yoga students, like, what I did in my past. And it's like, they're like, what? It's crazy. Like a lot of them just can't even, they don't get, even just being on the plane, we're at South by Southwest this weekend. And so just talking and chatting up with the guy on the plane. He's like, so what are you doing out here? I was like, let's meet up some old friends, going to play some music.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, cool. Yeah, there's a lot of music going on. I was like, yeah. He goes, what kind of band is it? I was like, well, it was a band when I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, and you come together every year? I go, no, they make some money and they come out and they fly us out. And
yeah.
I was like, you're kidding. You're in a band? And then they Google up your band, like, holy crap.
So true.
It's sometimes very shocking. It's very shocking when you meet a quote civilian.
Totally.
I call them civilians, not non-hardcore people.
100%.
My wife is a civilian.
Okay.
My wife is a civilian.
Yeah.
And so I blew her mind. Because most people don't know who the hell I am. But every now and then you run into people who are once we were in Bangkok before we were married, and I saw some Thai kid with this Youth of Today shirt on. And I said to her, you're not going to believe this, but that is me on the back of that kid's shirt. She's like, no, it's not. I was like, yeah, this is a Youth of Today shirt. That was the name of my band. She's like, that's not true. She let's go up and say something to him.
Oh, shit. That's awesome.
Yeah, stuff like that.
It's hard, like when you're like you're talking to normal people, like you said, civilians. Like, what kind of music do you play? It's like punk. I don't want to say hardcore. I don't know what that means. Or like, we're not as hard as Metallica. We're not as poppy as Green Day. It's hard to explain it, man.
I know, it's hard to explain it.
It's like,
although I will find so many people have listened to it.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people have heard. I mean, my kid's school,
yeah,
just ate some salsa, and I'm choking on salsa.
Oh, shit.
Like in my kid's school, I think like 5 of the teachers knew of Shelter.
Wow.
Like, that's like a pretty impressive, out of like 20 teachers.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
A small school like that. 5 of the people listen to Shelter.
I mean, Shelter was a whole different animal too. And so after we're in this alone, how many years after that the Shelter started? You guys stop playing Youth of Today? I'm trying to think when that was though. The gap wasn't that long.
Well, it was sort of weird. It was sort of peculiar because Shelter didn't start as a band. It started out as me sort of being reactionary to, like I said, when you experience some type of like success,
yep,
and the people that you really believed in you and loved you and believed in you, and they sort of like, screw you, you sold out, or screw you.
Yeah.
I just got so sick of that.
Yeah, man. You were put on this pedestal
and
too.
And teenagers are the worst. What to speak of like hardcore teenagers, they're the real worst.
Yeah.
They're just like a nasty,
super fickle.
So I just felt like, fickle, and I just felt like, I am so freaking over this music scene. I have a whole, like,
other path. journey.
I'm on a I felt like I'm on a spiritual journey, and this is so much low. I mean, even though it's straight edge and vegetarian stuff, like it's a lot of low vibe. It's like a nasty element that I can't relate to anymore.
Yeah.
And especially even the way like people look at women.
Yeah.
And
it's true.
You know, I didn't want to have like conversations where everything about a woman is objectifying a woman as a commodity.
Totally.
And I started thinking like, I just don't want to have that conversation anymore. But that was part of the conversation. That was the part of being a boy and part of being, you know, hardcore and stuff like that. I was just like, I don't want to live in my lower chakras or whatever you want to call it, or live like just thinking like that. It's just like, and so I had to sort of like make a decision, sort of like an incision, and just like cut that part of my life out.
Yeah.
It was very radical because Youth Today was sort of like at its prime success.
Yeah.
But to me, I was like, who cares? I mean, I wasn't here to be successful, and the more successful I ever got at it, the more painful it became.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you remember times with H2O.
100%.
When it was very fun.
Totally.
And joyous, when there was no obligations. You didn't have to worry about money. You didn't have to worry about. You just got together with friends and made music. It was like very simple and naive almost.
Totally.
And I feel like the more successful we became, it brought me more haters. It did, you know, it brought you more lovers, but it brought me more haters.
Yeah.
And so for me, writing the Shelter record, I wasn't thinking I'm going to make something alternative and post-hardcore. To me, I wanted to write the most, almost like a slap in the face to all these people, and just like write like the most eclectic type of music I could even think of writing.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a goodbye to the music scene. That's how I wrote it.
Gotcha.
I didn't have a band. I literally wrote the entire album for a month, and then by myself with a guitar.
Yeah.
And then called up those guys from Reflex from Pain, who were some older guys. Older means 10 years older than me. So they were 30. And then I said, can you guys come to meet me at my mother's house and record this record with me? So we had one day to practice, and then we recorded it.
Wow.
And that was perfection. Excuse me. That was Perfection of Desire.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a goodbye to the hardcore scene.
Yeah.
It was like my final statement.
Yeah.
And it wasn't only till I went back to India, started really getting into my spiritual practice, where I started to realize, like, we're not here to give up what we're great at. We're here to refine what we're great at. Or we're here to like spiritualize what we're great at.
Yeah.
If you're great at something and it causes you problems, well, maybe you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Maybe you're doing it with your own ego involved.
Yeah.
And so the theory was, you don't give up what you're born to do.
I like that.
You channel what you do in a more spiritual way, and it'll actually become fulfilling.
Yeah.
If you're doing it with ego at all, then you're going to suffer. And if you're doing it as service, like this is actually an offering, then you don't care. You don't care if everybody loves you or if nobody loves you.
Yeah.
You don't care if people, throw meatballs at you, which people have done.
I know, that's crazy.
You won't care about that because you feel like, you know what, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of, then I started to embark on Shelter, which was like the next phase of my life.
And you were singing too, like you totally can sing, and like all of a sudden it's like you went from your voice in Youth of Today, then you're singing in Shelter. I was like, it was awesome. Like, what made you?
The interesting thing about Shelter, I don't know. The interesting thing about Shelter was we had no format to follow. The Youth of Today, we had a lot of format. I love the nasty front. I love the abuse. I love the negative approach. I love I was like, okay, this is what we're going to sound like. I know how to write those songs. Shelter, I had no freaking clue what I was writing. I mean, I would get in the studio, it would come out, and I'd be like, wow, this is going to suck, or it's going to be good. Or I didn't know. I had no, like, I knew when we went to a Youth of Today recording, this is how it's going to sound. I just knew it in my brain. I literally had no clue. Every Shelter record I ever wrote, I had no clue. I'm not one of these polished. I'm not a good musician, really. I can write songs, but I can't really play anything, and I'm not like one of these bands that has pre-production. You know what I mean? Where you have all these
Yeah.
great. Okay. I love how this song came out. We can't wait till we take it to the real studio.
Yeah.
I just like literally wrote everything with like a tape recorder, play and record, tape recorder, and a guitar, and I could barely play the guitar.
Wow.
And so it was all a mystery how it was going to turn out, and I didn't know what song to write after the next song, and I had no idea what our sound was, but people like Shelter.
Yeah, man, they loved it. I mean,
we sort of went on that ride for a while.
That ride's crazy because, I mean, Adam was in the band. He told me like how massive you guys were in South America. You had Bodyguards, you had the hit song on MTV, then that No Doubt tour in the USA. You were after that or something. It was just like, it was amazing, man. It's like another level, you know?
Yeah, it was interesting.
Did you expect? I'm talking about Mantra too. Like the album Mantra, that's my favorite. Obviously, I love that record. But did you expect it to have that much success? It was just crazy, man. I remember.
I had no clue. But it was at a time. It was at a time where like everybody was getting a major label deal.
Yeah.
Like I mean, in my childhood, to get on a major label, it was almost in most people's childhood, it was like so out of your hands.
Yeah, totally.
That was something like no one did it. No one did that except there's some magical bands that were actually signed. But sort of like in our lifetime, we started seeing all our friends, all our peers, getting signed to major labels.
That was the time.
It was like we couldn't like it was a weird time historically to watch all these bands go from like our friends to becoming like legends.
It's true.
And so it was a little shock. Rage Against the Machine was like the first one,
dude,
because they were our friends and Youth of Today fans.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go over their house. I remember Zach, I think, drove me to the first Hare Krishna temple I stayed at.
Oh, wow.
Overnight in Laguna Beach.
Wow.
And so...
they are massive, man. That's right, Inside Out.
Yeah, but it was, what do you call it? It was sort of a good ride, being in the band.
Yeah, I mean, so Shelter, when that first came out, what there was the feedback? I mean, obviously before internet, so when you guys came out as a Krishna band, was there crazy blowback from the scene then too, or no?
Oh, tons. Are you kidding?
Because you just came from like being kind of burnt on the whole like the Youth of Today thing with the way people are acting and talking crap. And then you try getting something different, and then they're still following you because it's you. It's who you are and what you've done in the past. So it's like,
I just think like if you're gonna speak out about anything, you're gonna get shit for it.
Totally. So
you just got to dig deep in your heart. And to me, I always thought, music is spiritual. Mm-hmm. You can't take spirituality out of music.
Yeah.
That's what's writing these songs. You think I'm writing these songs?
Yeah.
I just have to get me out of the way. That's how I write these songs. Yeah. All the lyrics I ever wrote, I don't take any credit for. I feel like they were divinely written. I just had to get my ego out of the way. And I feel like it was like a puzzle I had to put together.
Yeah.
Same with the music. I can't barely play it. I mean, one of our famous songs was Here We Go Again.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was... I wrote that a day before I went to the studio. I had no clue how it was going to come out.
Damn.
And I just feel like God wrote the song. I mean, that sounds weird, but I've heard other artists say the same thing. I don't know if you do. You know what I mean? Or if you feel the same way.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm not doing this stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's
how I felt.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about my song, and I felt like for people to tell me I can't write a spiritual song, or I can't be part of the hardcore scene because I want to write about spiritual things. I thought, who are you to tell me that? Yeah. What makes you the lawmaker of hardcore?
Yeah, I love that. About you. Yeah,
and it was sort of like, who are you anyway? Mm-hmm. If anyone's going to be a lawmaker of hardcore, it should be me. I was in a big hardcore band.
Yeah.
If anyone's going to be, so every time people try to get loud with me like that, I just throw it back in their face. 100%. What makes you say? What makes you like the freaking king of hardcore, and you make the rules?
Yeah.
Only like you're trying to create a police state all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can do, but I can't.
Yeah.
Or you can. What happened to no rules? There's no rules. So
exactly.
Let my rule be. I can make spiritual things.
Yeah.
They couldn't live up to their own. They just get pissed off. Anyway.
I know. Did any of the criticism get to you, even though there was no internet then and people really want to? I mean, every day on the internet you can see people talk. It's different, but
shouldn't have, but it does.
Yeah.
Of course, criticism gets to you because
you're following your heart too, though.
You try to follow your heart when people don't not only not appreciate it, they think you're freaking evil.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they don't appreciate it. I mean, if you strip down, even if you don't believe in Eastern thought or whatever, if you just strip down what we were talking about, I feel like it's a good thing. It's a positive thing.
Yeah.
But, they were trying to call me out as a cult figure.
Cult leader, I was going to say that.
Yeah. And so I had to throw it back in their face. And it's like, don't you get it? It's all a cult. This whole freaking material world is a cult.
Mm-hmm.
You have a cult of heavy metal kids, a cult of death metal, a cult of straight edge, a cult of vegans. It's all just a bunch of different cults.
Yeah.
Now let's just boil it down to what is that cult saying? Are they saying good things about life? We're saying you are more than your bodily appearance. We shouldn't judge people according to their bodily appearance, their gender. We should. I mean, this is the original freaking #MeToo stuff.
Totally.
It's like
totally.
This is we are spiritual beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
people had you on this.
So anyway,
people had you on this superhuman pedestal where you couldn't fuck up and you had to be a certain way, and I'm sure that was hard, because people put you in this spot where you know what I mean? You're perfect and you're a fucking human being. You know what I mean? You make mistakes and you're, you know what I mean?
I think it went through different phases of my existence and my own growth. And I think people just like to talk shit. Yeah. And to the degree I let them, it's almost like if you're going to hold on to suppose I'm walking by in an amusement park and my pants get caught on a roller coaster, then I'm going for a ride. Yeah. So to the degree that I held on and really, really gave a shit about what people thought of me, and I suffered. Yeah. Same is true now. So I just have to do what I have to do. I have a service in my life to do. I'm on a trajectory in this world. Yeah. To the degree that I get caught up in some barking dogs, I'm going to just suffer. So I just don't let it bother me.
Yeah, because it never stopped you from being creative or being yourself either. You always stayed who you were through all those different bands and all that shit. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's awesome because you did what
Thanks, Toby. Thanks, Toby. I think so.
Yeah. You did what you believed in and what you're passionate about. And you were trying to share positivity, whether other people believed what you believed or not. You felt in your heart that it was something positive and you were trying to inspire people in a good way. You weren't trying to fucking turn people into assholes or violent people or, you know what I mean? Or telling people to do negative things at all. It's just, I don't know. I think people, just like when you post something now, if you write something, if I write something I'm passionate about animals, I'm not trying to be preachy. I'm speaking from my heart, and it's my personal profile page, but obviously you have a community of people that look at your shit, and so they think that you're trying to push something down their throat when you're not. It's just something.
Sure.
I'm trying to be teachy, not preachy, and then people get so offended, especially by animal rights stuff, because it makes them look inside themselves. It's like, oh shit, that's where a hamburger comes from? Oh man. They start questioning themselves. So you made a lot of people question themselves, is what I'm trying to say. Look deep inside of themselves, I think.
Thanks, Toby.
That's my point. It's true.
I had some good inspiration.
Yeah. But I did. I mean, because of you guys, I went vegetarian and never looked back. And just being around New York for that time and everything was going on, it was a great time to be in New York for all types of music. And I don't know, just the energy. And I feel like the more people you think maybe you bummed out, there's a million other people that you inspired. And I think it's hard to, when you're in it, it's hard to look at yourself and be like, I actually did some shit with my life. Sometimes I get what have I done in my life? I'm in a band for 25 years. What have I done? But then you step out of it and see the people you inspire, you realize you did a lot of good for people, man. Regardless of the small amount of people who are hating, it's such a small minute of people who probably listen to your record right now. It's when you're in it, it's hard to think about it though. But yeah, I mean, and the shelter shit, and you guys want to tour No Doubt when they were fucking blowing up, right? Just a girl came out.
Yep.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. Playing to arenas and shit. Playing arenas. It's it's crazy. And
hard to believe.
And I know you and Tony connected on that tour. He told me about hanging out with you guys on that tour. Tony Canal and shit, riding with you guys.
And now he's an animal rights guy too.
Dude.
I heard.
Yeah, he's big time. Yeah, man. It's awesome. He's one of my close friends out here. Yeah, I'm sure you guys had something to do with that. He's totally into that, and
he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great dude. I think he was inspired by just being with you guys. But as far as like being a parent now too, I know you have a good amount of children. I'm sure you instill. I'm sure you instill those beliefs and values that you have when you were a kid in your kids now, right? I mean, it's hard not to.
Yeah, that's part of parenting, I guess.
Yeah.
And it makes you really sort of have to live your truth.
Totally.
Or else you can't teach them anything.
100%.
So for sure.
Like my son's never had meat, but I don't. If he wants to have meat, he can have it. But he just grew up around me and my wife not eating it, so it's like he's 16 now. Whatever he wants to do, but he knows where it comes from and all that. And it's like I never preached it to him. Or nothing,
I've never met your son, but he seems like the nicest kid ever.
Thank you, man.
Just from your social media.
Thank you, man. Yeah, he's a sweet person. Yeah, I'm very lucky, man.
You're lucky. Sometimes they're not so nice.
Yeah. How many kids? How many kids do you have?
I have 5 kids.
Wow.
2 were my wives before we were married.
Yeah.
I raised them since they were about 4 and 5.
Awesome.
And then I have 3 more children from between me and my wife too. And they're like 5 is the youngest, and 12 and 13.
It's amazing.
They're
man.
great kids.
Yeah.
I love being a dad.
It's the best thing that ever happened to me, man. I'm sure it happened same to you. It's like you never think about becoming a parent, or I don't know. It's amazing, man. It changes your whole perspective on life, just everything, like, and it makes me super emotional.
And I start thinking about all the youth today's songs are like expectations. I was like, oh man, that's me. I've become my dad. I got expectations on all my kids. Get off my fucking back.
It's so true though. It's crazy, right? Like, damn, man. Do you remember the New Wind record, 7 Seconds? There's a song called Man Enough to Care on that. That song really struck a nerve with me as a kid about raising your kid and try to make him be like macho and not be feminine. Like, and Kevin doesn't even have kids. I talked to him about the other day. I'm like, dude, that song, I grew up with no dad. My dad passed when I was young, but that song really makes me so emotional from the first time I heard it till now. And I feel like when you become a dad, you get so emotional so easy. I cry for everything. Yeah. It's crazy, man. I don't know what happened. You know what I mean? It's like...
Where do you guys live?
We live in Hollywood, in California. Yeah.
In Hollywood, okay.
Yeah, we live...
Where does your son go to school?
My son goes to school at Hamilton High. It's a music magnet program. He's a drummer and piano player at the school. So they have
great.
They have an Adidas Sound Lab, and so he has a band now. They're like a rock band, and they signed to the school label. They recorded their first single at the school, and they have a manager who's in 10th grade kid's their manager at the school. It's crazy, dude. Isn't that cool. Crazy? It's like So yeah, we're lucky. I mean, we get to raise our kids. It's cool. We get to play music still, and it's that balance of like home life and playing.
I know
music
my kids are coming to the Youth of Today shows this weekend.
Oh wow!
They've never heard Youth of Today because I cursed too much, so I never let them listen to it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
They've heard Shelter though.
Yeah, Shelter's. I mean, yeah.
Shelter was cleaner.
Totally cleaner. One of my questions is to people, but I already know the answer. Are you optimist or pessimist? But I know you're optimist. I knew that from day one. So that's a really easy question.
I'm pretty much an optimist.
And then you have like any daily rituals?
Yeah, I do.
I'm sure you do with yoga and stuff like that, but like.
I have like spiritual rituals that I do every morning. It's like a gratitude thing, like the people in my life that have influenced me, and I thank them.
Awesome.
I think it's like important, and first thing I do in the morning is I bow down.
Awesome.
And I thank everything from the earth itself to all the teachers in my life.
Yeah.
To God, to my family, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those are sort of like morning rituals. Those are my morning rituals. Then I try to spend some time each day outside in nature.
Awesome.
It's like a regular ritual.
Yeah.
Just to sort of connect with nature. We can live a life on a phone or live a life on a computer and live a life in a cubicle and just like miss out on nature. So I find that to be a nice connection.
Yeah, I love that.
I try to like move my body every day somehow.
Yeah, exercise.
Either yoga. I do jiu-jitsu as well. So jiu-jitsu or yoga or something like that.
That's awesome.
Something just to move my body, get my body moving.
And you teach classes every day?
And then, do I teach class every day? No.
No.
I teach mainly on the weekends.
Okay.
Yeah. And I travel generally and teach.
All around.
I travel I travel all around pretty much, mainly in the East Coast and Europe and California and random places.
Yeah.
And I spent a couple months a year in India too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw you and Purcell were just there. That looked beautiful, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I bring my kids, and my kids love it too.
Next time you're in Cali, you should hit me up. We'll definitely get some food out here. That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you have any regrets in your life?
That's a good question. I'd like to think not.
Yeah.
But I probably can dig up a few regrets.
Yeah. It's a hard one, right?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. If you look in the big picture, the regrets, like I think I was like a jerk in high school, or in junior high school, especially because I was really trying to find myself.
Yeah.
I was trying to find myself, and therefore it's like I was bullied, so I bullied back. That's like stupid. But if it wasn't perhaps for that pendulum swing in the other direction, maybe I wouldn't have like auto-corrected. So in one sense, I regret that behavior and the way I treated people. And, I picked fights with people. I picked them. It was like innocent people, and that was stupid. But perhaps I needed to experience, because you get a painful result of when you're an asshole. It's just part of being an asshole.
Yeah.
You get a painful result. And so maybe that painful result in a broader picture is what I needed to sort of like screw my head on better.
Yeah.
I realized I didn't want that in my life. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Sort of my biggest. A lot of them probably just refer to like treating people.
Yeah.
Because those are the big things that make a difference. If you treat a person wrong, it affects them.
For sure.
It has a big ripple effect.
A lifetime effect sometimes, for sure. Yeah.
A lifetime effect.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if I could do some undos in my life, it'd probably be a few of those. Yeah,
I mean, we're not perfect people, obviously. We do shit when we're kids, and then you learn from your mistakes, and you grow, and you get older, and you think about it. Do you remember? Do you if you could? Do you know the kids who actually got bullied by you? Or was it just random? You never remember their names, so you could maybe find them one day. That might be cool.
I think it was. One time I tried to find a guy on Facebook, but I couldn't find him.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Well,
I think it's just good to go through and if you can make that amendment with a person, it's healthy.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't want to have any. Yeah, when you pass or somebody passes, you never say sorry to them before they go away. That's I'm sure people do it all the time. They can't live with themselves. Have that. I should have said sorry. Like holding grudges, all this stuff's not healthy at all. I don't think.
No, it's like toxic.
Yeah, and we just do our best. We're not perfect, but I'll tell you this, man. The stuff that you've been involved with in your music, and it's inspired me and changed my life for the better. Like I said, about becoming a vegetarian. So I want to thank you for that. The impact you had on my life, and your music, and the whole entire world's been inspired by your music and stuff. And I know you're a human being. You're not perfect. None of us are. So it's like, don't be too harsh on yourself. And I know that you yourself, did what you loved, and you fucking follow your path and follow your heart, and didn't give a fuck what people thought. Maybe you did a little bit, and you're telling me that now, but I didn't see that in you back then. You were just doing your thing, and you were singing about stuff you believed in. It really connected to people. So I appreciate the honesty, and I feel like you guys were ahead of the curve with veganism and changing the planet and fucking animal rights and all that shit. Like, it's so crazy now to see how veganism is a trend. And back then, people couldn't even say that word vegan, say it right. It's so awesome. It's like, it's such a big impact, Ray. So I want to thank you for that. And the world's changing.
Thanks, man.
And you called it. You called that shit a long time ago. It's not like you're trying to predict the future. You're just singing right then what you felt in your heart, what you were into at that moment. But I feel like that your band and a couple others it's the only genre of music that was ever singing about, okay, meat is murder, whatever, the Smiths, my bad. But in hardcore, nobody was pushing that envelope that positivity, that changing the planet, because punk rock was like, fuck your parents, anarchy in the UK, never mind the Bullocks, whatever. That was cool. But then there was hardcore. It's like, let's fix things, not fuck everything. I like my mom. Let's fix things. And I feel like that music, like 7 seconds, like you said, the lyrics they were singing back then was so ahead of the curve. And then what you guys are singing about racism and animal rights. And so thank you, man. Thank you for using your voice. I think when you like
tune in, I think when you tune into your like inner voices, then it will have like the best effect that when you can get really vulnerable with how you feel. And I think probably every band that has, you probably love, because they really speak to a part of you that lies underneath our ego and our pretense.
100%. And I want to thank you. Yeah, I want to thank you.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm just saying thank you for saying that. Everybody needs encouragement, so thank you for the encouragement.
Yeah, man, of course, man. And thank you for bringing Air Jordans and all the dope Nikes into hardcore. Also,
say again?
Thanks for bringing the Air Jordans and all the dope Nikes into hardcore. Like, they break down the walls cover, all you guys wearing the Nikes. Like, that changed the game too, man. Because, it's crazy.
You know, it's so funny because I got those sneakers at like Marshall's or some like cheap store. It wasn't like I'm going to get Air Jordan. I didn't even know what they freaking were. They were like red, white, and blue or red, white, and black.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who Michael Jordan was.
Damn,
I just thought they were cool color, and they were canvas. They were non-leather. And I thought, oh, these are cool. They're non-leather. I'm going to wear these. And I had these like Nike track pants, which I also got at Salvation Army. I wasn't trying to make a fashion statement, although it sort of came off that way.
Dude. It's so, and you did, and the Champion sweatshirts, all that shit, which my son's like, I love Champion. Can you be like, all the kids are wearing Champion now? It's like the biggest comeback ever. I'm like, man, we get Champion basketball jerseys at like irregular size ones, like in Buffalo at like the outlets and stuff. Just like,
the Champion outlet. That's right, in Buffalo. Dude. I forgot all about that.
But it's like all that stuff, and like you guys weren't trying to be fashionable, just what you were. But when you look at it back now, it's so iconic and so like.
It was almost like masterminding branding, but it just wasn't that. It's so funny because you can go somewhere like in Leipzig or Rome and see all these people dressed just like that now, copying that style. But
it's crazy, man. Just looking at that Noah release that dropped today, like this whole thing about Youth of Today I read today with that Noah collab you guys dropped, and the sweatshirts and the gear, and it's just like, it was so cool. Like that sticks out to me more than like, I connected with that more than like the leather jackets and the Sid Vicious shit, obviously. But yeah, just looking at that represents a time, like an amazing time of positivity and energy and, you know, things changing in hardcore. So yeah, I'm honored to speak to you and call you my friend. I love doing this podcast because I get to talk to people who inspire me, and I appreciate everything you've done with your life and you continue to do, inspire people. And yeah, hope to hang out with you in real life soon, you know?
Thanks, brother. Congratulations on your family and your podcast.
Thank
your band's still doing it, and those guys are all cool. And I believe that you're a force of good.
Thank you, man.
So I'm happy for you.
And also,
I'm happy for all the people that you're influencing.
Thank you, man. And I always use the word friggin' and think about you and Purcell, because you guys always use the word friggin' back then instead of using the F word.
Yeah, we're pretty pathetic, aren't we? My wife just said to me, "You gotta stop saying freaking all the time."
You say it around the kids. You're not saying the F word. I love that, friggin'. That's amazing, man.
She's like, you say it sometimes with so much anger. It's a freaking.
So just say the
I was
F
like,
word.
well, you should have heard what it sounded like before.
Yeah, exactly. I think we covered everything, though. This is your life, Ray Cappo. We just covered it. Pretty much the oral history of your life, because I want the people listening to know about you and how you inspired me. Obviously, there's a Ray and Purcell record, better than 1,000. People can Google you. What is your Instagram? Because I can't say that. I can't spell that. Anything.
It's at Raghunath, which is my Indian name.
Yeah.
Raghunath Yogi, RAGHUNATH Yogi, YOGI, at RAGHUNATHY Yogi, Raghunath Yogi.
Okay, awesome, man. Yeah, and have a good show. You guys, how many shows you have this weekend?
Just 4 shows.
Oh, nice. You could do this vocal warm. You do vocal warm-ups too?
No, I don't. I just lose my voice and suffer for 2 weeks afterwards.
That's great. I'm gonna send you something. Yeah.
Do you guys go on tour a lot?
We haven't gone in 5 months. We got a lot of shit coming, like 21 shows in a row coming up this summer. But
Wow.
I'm gonna send you something. I'm gonna send you like this Screaming and Zen thing. It's amazing, man. I've been doing this since 2001. I never lost my voice ever since I did these warm-ups.
What is it?
It's called Screaming and Zen. And she's done
Okay,
Lou,
I'm into it.
Hatebreed, everybody. She's done every single band you can think of. Andrew WK, like massive metal bands, and she teaches you how to breathe and not lose your voice. But so I'd never
Totally interested.
Yeah, I never do not do warm-ups because, and I chew gum on stage too because that's what Dave Grohl does. I copied him because it keeps your throat moist. It's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, but sometimes you choke on your gum when you jump around. It's hard.
I could see that happen. All right, so you gotta okay, dude, you gotta give me those lessons because I hate losing my voice.
Yeah.
It drives me insane.
Yeah, I'm gonna send. Actually, we got the phone right now. I'm gonna send it to you right now. I'm gonna send you a link because it's a life changer, man. It's a life changer.
All right, I'm gonna take you up on that. Thank you, brother.
All right, brother. Great talking to you.
All right,
thanks,
keep up the good work. Tell the guys I said hi.
I will, brother. Thanks for your time and thanks for everything.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, please do that. And whatever platform you are listening to this on, I'm glad you found me. You can rate me and review me on there also. So thank you guys sincerely for the support. I cannot wait for you guys to hear the next one.